So yesterday I was in your room and observed you teaching a phonics lesson, and the lesson was about the sneaky Y can sound like E, the long E sound. So when you reflected over the lesson, what did you feel was something that you thought went really well?
They're doing much better sounding out their letter sounds. The review at the beginning of the lesson, just to sound out the sounds, because we really tried to stray away from the making the sound after every letter. So they did really well with that. And then when we went into sneaky E, I thought they did really well organizing the order of the sentence and being able to identify Y words. Maybe not necessarily Y with an E sound, but they could identify the words that ended in Y.
Is there anything that you thought that you would do differently?
Yes. It would have been more smoothly, it would have gone more smoothly if maybe the students would have worked independently on a sheet. We're still working on group work. If I would have put a sentence on every one sheet and had them cut it out themselves, it might have gone smoother just based on the number of kids and the type of kids. Doing things by themselves works better most of the time. And it might have even worked better if I would have had something for them to glue the sentence on instead of having to organize it themselves.
Things that I noticed that I really liked about the lesson. I love the review of previously learned skills. You know, some kids don't get it right at the beginning, but you know, eventually through the year, if you keep reviewing, it will click. So that's good to review. And I also, like you said, you noticed that the kids were saying duh instead of d. And I wrote down 3 different instances in the lesson where they were making the D sound and the B sound, and the H sound. They did it for H as well. So I noticed that. And I put down here, right. That's going to pay off when they start blending at the beginning of the words, because, you know, right now, the kids haven't gone through the phonics program yet, and second grade teachers were coming to me, you know, not too long ago, talking about how they were having a hard time with blendings, and that was the reason why. So hopefully, if we keep reminding you of that, it'll be easier.
Yeah, and I really feel like it's dialect. It's just our cultural
right.
thing.
It is cultural, but so, you know, we're having to do the same thing in kindergarten with E versus the I. But so I'm working a lot in kindergarten right now, and they're having to correct that over and over. We're trying to speak correctly.
Right.
So, we may not ever be able to change that because of where we live, but at least they'll hear the difference if we keep reminding them of it. You did a great job reviewing the week's rule, and I like that you're talking about the definition of words that they may not be familiar with, like hobby.
Right. We do that on Mondays when we go through. We do the Pathways book on Mondays, and then we do it again on Wednesdays, and then we do it as a review on Fridays. So Tuesday, Thursdays are our reader and game. We always have a game day and we have a reader day, so that they know that on Tuesdays and Thursdays they're going to have an activity. And on Monday, Wednesday, Friday we do the book, and they know they're going to have blue cards and whiteboards. Cool. So we have a little space to have a routine with my group.
Oh, yeah, for any group too, but especially your class. And then I liked how the activity combined the phonics skill with a syntax type activity and ordering words in a sentence, and how, you know, the conversations in the classroom, you know, when you modeled, you talked about the capital letter, that must be the word that starts the sentence. This word's followed by a period, this must be the last, and then figuring out what makes sense in the order in between that. And you modeled that for the kids, and then I was listening to them during the group time, and I heard them having those types of conversations, so that's good. And then in your closing, I was glad that you addressed the misconception about how it ends in a Y, and you talked about that earlier. But just because it ends in a Y doesn't mean that it's going to have the long E sound. You were talking about how you had discovered words that ended in a Y that made the long I sound, like sky. And you had talked about maybe the short words versus the long words. I had been kind of thinking about that afterwards because I never really thought about it before, but I think it's the syllables.
Is that what make it do that?
I'm thinking so.
See, I don't know the rule
because
on what makes it Y and E, but if that's the reason, then
I think it's the syllables in most cases. You know, there's always exceptions in the English language, but I thought of the word any, and it's a 3-letter word that ends in Y, but it makes a long E, and it's because it's any.
So multisyllable ends in. Who would have
So that may be it. I'm not for sure on that.
Right.
But like I said, there's tons of exceptions to everything. But in most cases, I found that the one-syllable words ending in Y have a long I sound.
Interesting. I would love, yeah. That makes sense.
Right.
I was thinking about the words, and we have a review word this week, handy. Only one person in the whole class last week got the word handy right, so I put it back on the test this week.
That's good.
Normally, if everyone misses one word, then I put it on the test again. So I took out a word that I thought they knew and placed in a word they didn't.
Okay, that works. And then another thing I noticed, when they kept lining up in front of the class, in the beginning they kept doing it in the wrong direction.
I noticed that too.
I don't think you even realized this, but when you guys were modeling it at the beginning, you were on that side and went that direction.
And that's why.
That probably is what caused the confusion to start with.
We use the horizontal side of the rug and they use the...
Yeah.
We use the vertical end and they use the...
Right. So that's just a little thing I noticed. I thought I probably wouldn't have noticed it either because you were standing here and all the kids just went to your left.
To my
Yeah.
right.
So you guys reading it made sense, but everyone on the carpet, it didn't. But you had come to me and asked me about the phonics readers and the different level readers in your room. So once you posed that question, I started digging, trying to find research that could answer our question because I don't know everything. And this is something that's fairly new at our school. So this is one of the best articles that I could find that I was going to let you have. And I highlighted things that I thought were important that maybe applied to the question that we had. And basically what I found out is, you know how you have some really high readers in your room, and you were concerned about the decodable books for the low, medium, and higher levels. And basically I found for the lower level readers, this talked about how giving them the little books for reading practice that go with the phonics skill that they gained in this setup, in this study, that they gained a 2.8 text level worth of reading skill. And it was a first grade class as well, which I thought was really appropriate since you teach first grade. Whereas the other kids that were just given basal, just stories, they only gained a 1.8 text level of reading that year. So that was something that I found interesting. But there are some conflicting studies in here, like it's going to tell you from lots of different perspectives. But it talked about the kids that are really, really good readers, that they do benefit from learning the phonics skills, but that it actually holds them back more than what they could if you have them read those decodable books with the other kids.